Right guys, today it is all about a next level weeknight pasta. This is a duck ragu with beautiful pappardelle. It's rich, it's indulgent, it's a little bit more than a weeknight pasta, but it goes the extra mile and delivers on the most indulgent pasta feast. We're gonna start off by browning off our duck legs in a pan. Now, when you are frying off duck in general, if you're doing the breast or you're doing the legs, start in a cold pan because you're basically gonna render out the fat here. And by doing this slowly, you'll get as much of the fat out there. You're also gonna get a really nice crispy skin. So on with the heat, and we're going to bring this up to temperature, and slowly but surely we're going to start to see a sizzle and a little bit of that golden brown action happening right there on the duck legs. Okay, this is where we want to be. You're starting to see a lot of that fat rendering out, and if you take your time with this, you should get left with this gorgeous, rich golden brown color, and the skins have gone really nice and crispy. I'm just going to turn it and get a nice brown on the other side. Okay, we're in a good place right now. I've got a nice golden brown color on all sides of our duck, and you'll notice that a lot of that duck fat has rendered into the bottom of the pan. Don't be afraid of this. I would say we're going to keep a little bit for the base of this duck ragu, but the majority of it we're going to drain off. And this duck fat is gold. This is liquid gold, and you can keep it in a little jar in your fridge. It's gorgeous over roast potatoes. You can use it for a whole host of different things, but don't throw it away. And if you are going to throw it away, which you shouldn't because I've just told you not to, let it cool completely before you dispose of it, because otherwise if you pour it down your drain, it's just going to clog things up, so you don't want to do that. I'm just going to drain off this fat, so just take up the pan, take the majority of that duck fat out, and we're going to stick the heat back on the pan. Going to go in there with a tiny touch of oil just to bring it together. We can lose this, we can save it for some lovely roast potatoes. And now, straight into the pan while it's still hot, we're getting in there with some onions, some celery, and some carrot. These are your base flavor of so many different things. Any good soup or stew begins with this beautiful combination of the sweetness of carrots and onions and that sort of bite, that celery bite you get from celery. So, give it all a good stir through, and you're going to take up all the gorgeous juices in the bottom of the pan. Remember, you've got that duck flavor, that duck fat, and all the brown bits going on in here that are going to combine with this mirepoix to give you the most gorgeous base flavor to this really rich duck ragu. Little salt and pepper at this point. The salt actually helps draw the moisture out of the onion, so it helps it to reduce down and to sweeten as well. Give it all a good stir through. The veggies are starting to soften down at this point, and just before they're finished softening completely, I'm going to add in a fairly hefty dose of minced garlic. So get that straight into the pan, and as soon as that hits that heat, it's going to give you this lovely fragrance in the air. And if you don't like garlic, leave it out, but I go big on garlic in this recipe. That's the smell I'm talking about. You've got lovely garlic wafting in the air right now. And now it's time for our liquid. So I have a little touch of balsamic vinegar, which is going to give you acidity and sweetness. So we're going to get that in there first, followed by some red wine, some chopped tomatoes, a little bit of tomato puree, and some chicken stock. And essentially that will be the beautiful base flavor for this duck ragu. Now essentially what we've got left here is this glorious, deep, dark broth that is going to envelop these gorgeous duck legs and make them really nice and tender. I'm going to get the duck legs straight in now that we have a rolling boil on our tomato situation going on in here. Lose our wooden spoon, and now essentially the work is going to be done in the pan. I can step away from it, and now at this point this is going to bubble away very slowly. I'm going to reduce the heat down, and it's going to bubble away for about an hour, just until that duck is so mouth-wateringly tender that it actually falls off the bone. And then you've basically got a duck ragu that's only waiting for a bit of pasta. Duck has now had an hour. Let's check on it and see where we're at. I've also brought a big pot of water up to the boil for our pasta, and oh my goodness, look at that. It was really reduced down now at this point. You can see that the sauce has intensified. I have stirred it a little bit throughout just to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. But at this point now, you have duck that is beautifully tender. And I'm actually going to take it across to our board here. And at this point now, the duck is ready to go. So I'm going to shred this up, but I want to get my pasta on before I do and just make sure that our sauce is in a good place too. So we've got the duck and I'm going to shred it up, but I just want to turn down the heat on this sauce. And if while you're cooking this away, you do notice that it starts to stick on the bottom, don't be afraid of adding a splash of water because that'll help you bring the sauce back. And even if it does catch a little bit, you'll be able to retrieve it. So at this point now, this is looking pretty good. The sauce is nice and thick, and so I actually don't need to cook it out much more than this. So I'm gonna shred up my duck and get it straight back in here. But before I do that, we wanna get our big pot of water heavily salted. So straight in there with our salt. And at this point now, I have some pappardelle, or you could use tagliatelle, you could use fettuccine, you could even use linguine, but I really think that these big, wide pasta noodles are probably the best. So straight into our pot, and also on the countertop with some of that pasta, you're gonna use just a spoon just to push this down and make sure that it gets completely coated in that water. Bring that up to a nice rolling boil, and as this cooks out, what I'm gonna do is shred up the duck. Now, I've chosen the worst top in the world to wear while doing this. So the challenge right this very moment is to shred up this duck without getting it all over this lovely cream top I'm wearing. But you can now join me as we do a montage of me attempting to get the duck shredded in a perfectly clean top. Okay, we are in a good place. It takes a minute or two to shred this up, but it really is worth the while because you get these lovely little chunks of duck that are going to be enveloped by that sauce. And best of all, I've managed to not get this all down my top while I've been doing it. So this is good things. I brought that back up to temperature. I'm going to scoop up our duck, transfer it over, and our pasta at this point is nicely cooked. So we're just going to strain the pasta straight into this sauce, and we are nearly good to go. Give it a quick stir through so you get all that duck coated in the sauce. This looks just phenomenal. I'm actually going to take off a little bit so that we can garnish with the top so that you get to see that gorgeous pappardelle topped with a bit of luscious duck ragu. And then I'm going to scoop up our pappardelle and put it straight into the pan. And you're actually going to take in with this a little bit of that starchy pasta water, which will only help bring this sauce together. Okay, this is the moment where we just have to take it slow. We need to turn off the heat. We need to scoop this together, and we want to create beautiful strands of pasta wrapped in that gorgeous duck ragu. Take your time with this. So take up a nice big scoop of this. I'm going to use the tongs and a spoon just to bring this across to a plate. And just get that gorgeous pasta piled on high. And I do think it's always nice to just top this with a little bit more of that sauce. Really important that you make sure the pasta gets coated in it before you do this. A last little touch of pecorino cheese over the top. You could use Parmesan, but it's just that little hit of salty creaminess that just brings this to the next level. That, my friends, is a serious plate of pasta. I mean, come on, this is proper indulgence. And now, my favorite part of the show. I mean, you can make a beef ragu, which is the standard way of doing things, but adding the sweetness of duck meat in there. I mean, for me, this is serious indulgent food. This is the sort of comfort food dish you want to come home to. And if you want the recipe details, I will leave a link in the box below, which will bring you to my website. All the ingredients are there, all the method will be there. And of course, leave me a comment letting me know, is this a dish you are going to make? Is it your comfort food? I want to know. Let me know downstairs. And of course, hit subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications to know when these recipe videos drop. And until then, my friends, I'm tucking into this, so I'll see you soon. Bye.